Hello and welcome to Selenium training series. This is the second session of our beginner series where we are learning test automation using Selenium WebDriver, and I am Muhammad Abid Munif Khan. Before we start today's session, let's have a brief recap of what we covered in our session 1. We started off with an introduction about the trainer and an introduction about this beginner series. We will be covering these two topics briefly today as well. Next up, we covered the actual contents of the first session, which included questions like what is software test automation, what is its importance, and answered some commonly asked questions about automation. Next up, we reviewed what is Selenium and had a look at what Selenium can do for us and what are its features. We also looked into the 4 components of Selenium, and lastly we reviewed Selenium website to see where we can get Selenium. So, if you are new to software test automation, I would recommend you view the session 1 first before continuing on with this session or any other session of this series. That would help you understand the bigger picture of software test automation and understand the basic concepts which will help you in all of the future sessions. Now, before we delve into the topics of today's session, let's have a brief recap about the trainer as well as this beginner series. A more detailed version of these two topics can be found in session 1, and in today's session we'll just briefly touch these two topics. So, starting off with the introduction about the trainer, so I started my career in 2004 as a software developer and then moved into the QA field in 2007. I've been involved in all kinds of QA activities like manual testing, automation, and process implementations. My special areas of interest include software testing and automation. From the automation perspective, I've created regression suites using tools like QTP, Test Complete, and Selenium. In Selenium, I've used languages Java as well as C# for my framework creations. Now, let's have a brief recap of what this series has to offer. So this is a beginner series in which we will learn the very basics of test automation using Selenium WebDriver. We will use Java as a programming language in this series, and we will learn all the topics which are necessary to get you started with test automation. During the course of these sessions, we will also cover a variety of Java topics so that your programming skills are also up to the mark, which will enable you to use Selenium WebDriver to automate your test cases. Following is the session-wise breakup of this 6-part series. We'll start off with the very introduction of test automation and Selenium, then we'll set up our Java environment and Selenium WebDriver. Next up, we'll explore a variety of topics related to Selenium, like exploring what WebDriver is and what are the object recognition mechanisms available in Selenium, what are weights, and lastly, what are page object and what is actually page object model. And as mentioned previously, we will also review some of the Java topics which are necessary to get you started with automation. So during the course of these sessions, we will cover the following Java topics. By covering these topics, we will enable you to have enough programming skills which will help you in your automation tasks. A more detailed discussion about the session-wise breakup and the topics which will be covered in each of the sessions, as well as the Java topics which will be covered during the course of these sessions, was done in session 1 of our series. So if you haven't already reviewed the session 1 of this series, I would recommend you view the introductory part of the session 1, which will give you the bigger picture of this series and what topics will be covered in this series. After a recap of these introductory topics, let's move to today's session. So in this second session of this beginner series, we will first review what Java is from the language perspective as well as from the platform perspective. Next up, we will set up Java on our machine and then download the Eclipse IDE, which will be used for programming, and Selenium WebDriver. Next, we will create a Java project with Selenium WebDriver. Then we will introduce what Maven is and what are its features and advantages. Next, we will create a Java project using Maven and then associate Selenium WebDriver with it. We will also cover the basics of Java as a programming language during this session. Since we have a lot of ground to cover in this session, let's break it up into three subparts. The first part will consist of introductory topics like overview of Java as a platform and then setting up of Java as well as Eclipse on our machines as well as downloading of Selenium WebDriver files. Next, we'll have a look at Java as a programming language in our second part. We'll review all of the basic syntax and constructs of Java as a programming language, which will enable you to have enough programming skills to start coding. Next, in the last part, we'll have a look at creating a Java project and then associating Selenium WebDriver with it. Lastly, in part 3, we'll also cover topics like Maven and then creating a Java project with Maven as well as Selenium WebDriver. Now, let's have a look at the learning objectives of this session. So after covering this session, we will have an overview of what is Java. We will know how to set up Java on our machine and how to set up Eclipse. We will know what files to download for setting up with Selenium WebDriver and then how to create a simple Java project and incorporating Selenium WebDriver in it. We'll have an understanding of what Maven is and how to create a Maven Java project and incorporate Selenium WebDriver in it. We would have learned what are the basics of Java, what is a Java class, what is a method, variables, and various kinds of statements like decision statements as well as loops. Similarly, we will be able to compile, build, and run a simple Selenium project. Now, let's move to our first topic, which is Java. So Java is one of the most popular programming languages in use. It is a general purpose high level programming language that is object oriented, class based, and specifically designed to have as few implementation dependencies as possible. It is intended to let the application developers write once, run everywhere, meaning that the compiled Java code can run on all platforms that support Java without the need for recompilation. One design goal of Java is portability. The programs written in Java are portable across platforms and it is one of its greatest advantages. Java's platform independence is achieved by the use of Java Virtual Machine. We will delve into more details about Java being platform independent and how it achieves it in the next few slides. Programs written in Java are also found to be more robust. As previously mentioned, one of the greatest advantages of Java programs is that they are portable across platforms and that they are platform independent and architecture neutral. Now, let's see what does being platform independent or being architecture neutral really means. For understanding, let's first see how a non-Java program compiles and executes. Once a program is written in a non-Java programming language, it needs to be compiled. The compiler converts whatever is written in the code to architecture-specific machine code to create an executable program for the intended operating system. So, if a program is intended to run on a Windows operating system and platform, it is fed to a compiler which converts it into an executable file which can be run on Windows platform and operating system. Same is the case for Mac. If the programs need to be executed on Mac operating system, the program needs to be compiled again by a different compiler which will convert the code into an executable which will run on Mac operating system. Same procedure needs to be reapplied to all of the platforms, for example Unix or any other platform. The summary is that a non-Java program needs to be recompiled each time for each platform on which it is intended to run. Now, let's see how a Java program overcomes this problem. Java achieves platform independence by following a two-stage process. At first, the Java program is compiled by the Java compiler to an intermediate representation called Java bytecode instead of directly to architecture-specific machine code. Java bytecode instructions are just like machine code, but they are intended to be executed by a virtual machine written specifically for the host hardware and not a specific chip. This code can run on any Java virtual machine regardless of computer architecture. Each machine just needs to have the Java virtual machine which knows how to execute Java bytecode. When we need to execute the Java program, it needs the host system to have the Java virtual machine on them, which will interpret the bytecode for that specific platform and execute it seamlessly. As you can see from the illustration, Java program consists of one or more files with the .java extension. When a Java program is compiled, the .java files are fed to the Java compiler, which produces a .class file for each of the files. These .class files contain the Java bytecode. The Java virtual machines will interpret the bytecode written in these .class files and execute them for the specific platform. So the Java code doesn't need to be recompiled again and again for each platform, and this is how it achieves platform independence. In the process of explaining how Java achieves platform independence, we have introduced few terms like JVM and Java Runtime Environment. So let's have a brief look at each of these terms to understand them, as we will be using Java platform and we need to set up Java environment to develop test cases using Selenium. Let's start with JVM. So JVM or Java Virtual Machine is an abstract machine which provides environment in which Java bytecode can be executed. The Java runtime environment is an implementation of the JVM. It contains set of libraries and other files which the JVM uses at runtime. Machines on which Java code or programs can be executed have JRE on them, which includes the JVM. When you install Java on your machine, normally the JRE is also installed alongside it. JRE is all you need if you just want to execute or run Java programs. But since we intend to develop our code using Java and Selenium, we would need to create development environment on our machine. So we would need the JDK. The JDK or Java Development Kit contains development tools including the Java compiler along with JRE. So the JDK does not get installed by just installing Java. It has to be specifically installed. It comes with the JRE built in, so once you have JDK on your machine, there is no need to install the JRE. Let's view all of this scheme in the form of a diagram. So with all of this in mind, let's start setting up our development environment. The first thing you need on your development environment is Java. I would recommend using a clean system that doesn't have any Java, JRE or JDK already installed. So if you have a clean system, you can go to the Oracle site and then go to the downloads option and download the JDK. The latest version is version 9. So let's go to the website and review the options from where we can download the JDK. So if you go to the Oracle site, go to the menu option and then choose Java and Java SE. The Java SE is the standard edition of the development platform. So once you are in the Java SE section, go to the download section and here you will have an option to download the JDK. After you have downloaded the JDK, follow the simple steps in the installation wizard to install it on your system. During the installation process, it is always advisable to keep the path as the default path which is appearing in the installation wizard, which usually installs in your C drive. Once it is installed, you can go to your C drive and you will see a folder named Java. Within it you will find your JDK, and within it you can go to the bin section and you will find all the relevant files and executable available which will be required to execute as well as compile your Java projects. You can see the Java C, which is the compiler available, as well as the java.exe, which is required to run the Java projects. So after you have completed the installation, you will also need to tell your operating system where to find these directories which are needed for either compiling or running of Java applications. This is done via setting the environment variables. So many problems in the installation as well as running of Java applications are caused by incorrect setting of environment variables, in particular the path variable, and in some cases Java_home variable. So environment variables are global system variables accessible by all the processes under the operating system. Environment variables are useful to store system-wide values such as directories to search for executable programs. So let's see where we can find and update our environment variables required for running and executing Java programs. So you can go to your system and its properties. Within the properties section, you will see advanced system settings. Within this, you can view the button called environment variables, and here you will find all the environment variables for this particular system. The most important one for us would be the path variable. So the path variable is used by the operating system to search for the program in your local file system to actually execute a particular program. So for Java applications, path must include the following directories, which includes the JDK bin directory. So if you go to here, in your C, Java and the JDK version and then the bin directory, this path needs to be entered into the path environment variable. Uh, by doing so, you are directing the operating system that this is the location where it can find the Java exe file as well as the compiler file and the rest of the files as well, which will be required for running a Java program or the compilation of a Java program. Another environment variable which may need to be entered is Java_home. So Java_home is needed for running Tomcat and many other Java applications, and if an application you are running prompts you to enter the Java_home or says that it cannot find Java_home path, then you may need to enter it within your system environment variables. So to enter it, go to your environment variables again, and within the system variable it will be added. It is not a default system variable, so you will not find it initially, so you will have to create it by using the new option. Once you have created it, the Java_home, you can set it to the JDK directory. So the difference between setting the path for Java_home and the path environment variable is that the Java_home expects that you provide the path till the JDK installation directory, while the path expects that you provide it till the bin directory. So this completes the installation part of Java and setting it up on your system. So what we have done is that we have downloaded the JDK from the Oracle site, have installed Java as well as JDK on our system, and then we had set some environment variables, specifically the path variable, and if needed the java underscore home. Now our system is ready to run, execute as well as compile Java programs. Next, you will need an integrated development environment to start your programming. So the integrated development environment or IDE needs to be set up on your system so that you can actually start coding. So this brings us to our next topic, which is Eclipse. So Eclipse is a very popular IDE in the Java world. It provides a very feature-rich environment, and for this training we will be using Eclipse Luna, but you can also use Eclipse Mars or Eclipse Neon or the latest version, which is the Eclipse Oxygen. Now let's see from where we can find and download Eclipse. So go to the Eclipse site, and within its project section you can find all of the available versions of it, including the Luna. If you want to install Luna on your system, you can just download it from the Luna section, or if you want any other version like Mars, Neon or the latest version which is Oxygen, they are all available within the downloads and projects section. You can install or download whichever suits you. Now to download the desired Eclipse version, just go to the Eclipse website, and under its project section you will find different versions which are available. For example, I've opened the Luna version. So you can download it by using the download button, and if you want some other versions which are more recent, you can go to the overview section, and here you can see all of the versions available. So after Luna, Mars was also launched in 2015, then Neon in 2016, and the latest one is Eclipse Oxygen, which was made available in 2017. You can download any one of them, and which will be required for your Java programming. Once you have downloaded the Eclipse version, it will be downloaded in the form of a compressed file. You can just extract it to the convenient location on your system. So you will get a folder, for example Eclipse, and within it you can just double click on its application to run it. So this Luna Eclipse does not need an installation. You can just run it as an application. So when you run, it will load the relevant files and then will open the IDE for you. So you can see here that the Eclipse IDE Luna version has been opened. If you are using it for the first time, it will first prompt you to enter a workspace. So a workspace is where all of your Java projects would reside. So if you are new and you are opening it for the first time, you will first get a prompt like this, in which you would be required to set a workspace. Set it to any convenient location and where you want your Java projects to be stored. Once your workspace has been declared, so all of the projects which you will now create within your uh, Eclipse IDE will all be created on this location. Now that we have downloaded and set up our Eclipse IDE as well on our system, the next thing we need is Selenium. So we can go to the Selenium website and download the relevant components. So the within the download section, there are at least two components which needs to be downloaded along with one or more server libraries. The first component is the Selenium standalone server. Download its latest version from the available option. The next component is the language bindings for Selenium. Since we will be using Java for our test cases using Selenium, you need to download the language bindings for Java. After these two components have been downloaded, you need to download the relevant driver for the browser on which you intend to do testing. I will download the IE driver as well as the Chrome driver, and we will be using these two browsers for testing purposes on our suite of test cases which we will be creating during this session. But if you want to use any other browser like Opera, Edge or Firefox, you can download the relevant drivers for those particular browsers. For the time being, you just download these files to a particular location on your system and keep them there. We will come back to these a bit later on. So now that we have all the tools and the environment set up, we can now actually start automation. But before we do that, let's first revise the basics of the programming language which we intend to use, that is Java. All our automation will be done using Java, and so having knowledge of Java essentials is necessary. In the next section, we'll go through some of the basics of Java so as to equip you with enough knowledge that you are able to start automating your test cases. Now let's move to part 2 of this session where we will be looking at the basics of Java.